the grocery store. Visiting the grocery store can be a positive experience for you and your family. All of our households are unique, but we all want to make healthy choices, save money, and shop stress-free. In this video, we will focus on understanding the nutritional benefits behind dairy foods and how to select healthy options. So let's get started.
Let's talk about milk. It's a common grocery item in the dairy aisle. Many families drink milk, and did you know that we get most of our vitamin D from our milk because it's fortified?
That's right, and another important nutrient in milk is calcium. We need both vitamin D and calcium for good bone health. Our children need even more calcium because they're growing and they need it for their bones. So milk and dairy products can be an important way for them to meet their nutrient needs.
This is true. Calcium and vitamin D are also important for adults, for heart and immune health. Fun fact is that you can actually also get vitamin D from the sun.
Yes, and milk usually has about 300 milligrams of calcium for each 8-ounce serving. Our kids need about 3 to 4 servings of dairy each day, and our adults need about 3 servings each day. Dairy foods are a great way to get a combination of all those nutrients, especially for growing children.
Yes, and the dietary guidelines for Americans, along with the American Academy of Pediatrics, recommends choosing more 1% in skim milk after the age of 2 years. Low-fat milk and dairy are great for heart health and for also managing weight. And low-fat milk has just as much calcium and vitamin D as regular fat milk.
If you or your family are not ready to make the switch from a higher fat to a lower fat or non-fat dairy, you can do simple things like gradually introducing it slowly into your diet. You can also mix them together until you have more of the component being a low-fat option for your family.
That's a great idea. Let's take a quick look at, like, say for example, you are already drinking 2% milk and you want to try to transition to 1% milk. What that transition means, if we compare the labels, is that really we're looking at the calories and fat. And so in our 2% milk, we're going to have about 150 calories per 8-ounce cup of milk and about 5 grams of fat. When you decide you can go to that 1% milk, you're going to be saving yourselves about 50 calories because it's 100 calories per 8-ounce cup of milk and half the fat at 2.5 grams of fat per cup. All the other nutrition like vitamin D and calcium is going to be the same. Well, what if your children don't like milk? Or you are wanting to try products like soy milk or almond or oat milk? Those are pretty popular right now. Let's check out the labels to see what nutrition is in each.
Great. This is a table from nutritionforkids.com. It's a great comparison of milk and milk alternatives. Here we do have samples of cow, soy, rice, oat, and almond milk. The main things that we want to look at with these labels are looking at the serving size, fat, protein, sugars, calcium, and vitamin D. So when we look at calories, you can see whole cow milk has 150 calories. It would be lower if you did choose a low-fat option. The other milk alternatives here you can see are comparable, except almond milk, which is significantly less calories. With fat, you're looking at 8 grams of fat for whole cow's milk. Again, if you did have lower fat cow's milk, that would be comparable to the other options. For protein, you'll see whole cow's milk has 8 grams, whereas the milk alternatives tend to have less. This is extremely important when you're trying to make sure your kids are getting enough protein. Whole cow's milk and cow's milk in general has more protein than the milk alternatives. Next, we'll take a look at sugars. Sugar in the cow milk is about 12 grams, where the rest have 6 grams, 10 grams, 19 grams, and 0 grams. It's important to note here that with cow's milk, it has naturally containing sugars, whereas with the milk alternatives, there tends to be higher amount of added sugars, which relates to the amount of sugars that are involved here. We also want to take a look at calcium and vitamin D. Here for the calcium amounts, they are comparable.
It's important to note, though, that with calcium, it is natural in that cow's milk, whereas with the soy, rice, oat, and almond milk, you really need to look to see if it's fortified. And then when we go to the vitamin D, all of those products pretty much have the same amount of vitamin D. And again, those are all going to be fortified as well. And what if your child does like milk, but has some stomach discomfort when they drink milk? Bloating and gas can happen, and we call that lactose intolerance, which means that it's difficulty, that your child may have some difficulty in digesting that natural sugar that's in milk. We call it lactose.
Lactose intolerance tends to be more common in older children and adults, and it often runs in families. The good news is that there are many products on the market that help you digest lactose.
So why don't we look now at another dairy food that's pretty common, yogurt. As you're walking down that dairy aisle, I'm sure you see there's a ton of yogurts to choose from. But yogurt is another dairy food that has a lot of the same nutrition that we've been talking about: calcium, vitamin D, and protein. And did you know, a fun fact is that when you look at the nutrition label on your milk or on your yogurt, and you look at the daily value of calcium, a cool thing to do is you could drop that percent, add a 0, and that gives you the total amount of milligrams of calcium in that particular food. One of the things that we do want to be looking for is low-fat yogurt, because that is a heart-healthy option to choose from. And there's a lot of options with yogurt. You've got flavored, you've got fruit, you've got plain, blended, mixed-in fruit, and Greek yogurt.
Yes, and we have some Greek yogurt here. The main thing that distinguishes Greek yogurt from regular yogurt is the amount of protein. Here we have a brand that has plain, non-fat Greek yogurt. The one thing that we want to look at here is protein. So for a 3/4 cup serving, it has 18 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein. Another important thing about this is because it's non-fat, it has 0 added sugars.
And talking about sugars, let's compare. What if we do want more of a flavored yogurt? We look for the fruit on the bottom. We can look for if our kids might say, oh gosh, look, let's try this yogurt in a tube. That's kind of cool. And it is. But there's some things that one of the things that you really want to focus on is that added sugar. So when we look at these tubes yogurt, it does say simply, which means that it has less added sugar, but you still look under the total carbohydrate, total sugars, and you still notice that there's 10 grams of added sugar per serving here. When we compare that to a fruit yogurt, one thing to look for is that with a low-fat fruit yogurt, you're often going to have added sugar because it does make up for the fat. So you want to consider, with the less added sugar, you want to try to look for a light. This is a light option, which means as we look at the total carbohydrate, it has 0 added sugars. So those are some things that we want to look at and consider.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a lot of great information. I have to say those tube yogurts are really convenient, especially when you're traveling in the car and you don't have a spoon.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So to sum it all up, dairy has important nutrients: vitamin D, calcium, protein. We also want to talk about how low fat doesn't mean low nutrition. In discussing that, we want to make sure that you understand that even if you reduce the fat, you're still going to get the same amounts of calcium, vitamin D, and protein, regardless of the amount of fat. Also, there are healthy selections that are available even if you have allergies or lactose intolerance. Nutritionforkids.com goes over these types of conditions and more. Also, nut milks like almond, cashew, they tend to lack the amount of protein that is needed for growing children. So you want to be mindful of that, and this can also be an issue for kids that have nut allergies. Also, there are many dairy options available for your family to choose. Even like we have one today, our parfait granola yogurt. How's that?
It's good. Thank you for watching our Healthy Dairy Choices video. We hope this video helps with selecting nutritious options like low-fat dairy that you and your family can enjoy. Also, we encourage you to view more videos from our Welcome to the Grocery Store series on nutritionforkids.com. Have a great day.